The Simone Feiler Podcast, giving authors a platform. Welcome to the podcast.
Mark Berridge is one of the most inspirational people I've met in my life, and his story, A Fraction Stronger, is absolutely incredible. A journey from an horrific bicycle accident and through the inspirations that gave him hope to recover and become stronger fraction by fraction, literally. Welcome to my podcast, Mark.
Oh, absolute treat to be on it, Simone.
I'm loving it as well. I feel incredibly privileged that you've chosen to work with me, bringing your audio to life in audiobook format. Thank you. How did you find narrating your story here?
Yeah, well, it was a lot better when I brought the reading glasses, so I think that's a trap for young players. Yes, I'm still in denial about that needing the glasses. They sort of only came along post-accident, and I'm just working through that. So if you do have a listen and you find the first few pages a bit dodgy, it's not Simone's fault, it's mine.
That's not true at all. He's done a superb job. Glasses on. We could embiggen that font.
We did. We had to expand the font, and the production room is a little bit dark, so that's my excuse, and I'm holding on to that one with my fingernails. That excuse.
You did an amazing job. There was so much emotion in your story, and I think you nailed it. So don't stress about it. All right.
Yeah, there was definitely a few moments where there was no tears as I recorded, but I definitely could feel a little chokes in my throat at different stages, and it's a very personal story, and I was blessed by so much kindness that helped me navigate what was really tough, and so you reflect on that as you're reading it, and and some of the moments are a little bit uncomfortable for remembering as well, and but it's a real pleasure to be able to record it and share it, and it took me a while, but I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I've learned so many things in our 14-hour journey. Humility is probably the biggest lesson. How lucky I am to be here living this life. But also not taking things for granted, which we all say, don't take it for granted. But in reality, do we really understand what that means? Taking things for granted, Maybe you can shed some light on this, because obviously before your accident, everything was okay. Did you ever consider that your life might just change in an instant?
No, my wife had been through a pretty tough journey with bowel cancer, so that and some other experiences around us. It can always happen, but of course you never quite expect it to impact you as suddenly and as abruptly as a spinal cord injury. So yeah, I don't think you ever do, and even when it does, of course I'm going to say most of us, maybe it's just me, but I think there's surely the blanket's a bit wider. You sort of feel like, oh, maybe I'm a bit superhuman, I'll find a way to come back from it better. So I think all of those things stop us from really fully appreciating how badly we could be impacted by a moment, both that feeling of it's unlikely and, I'll find a way to navigate it better than others. So yeah, I would say, I guess those things, and come back to the humility. I guess I'd like to think I was good at practicing that prior to the injury, but obviously I wouldn't have always been. We all have our moments. But in a way, it was a coping mechanism, through the injury and the recovery, was just to keep reflecting on all the goodness around me and how that was helping me, and how by appreciating what I did have, it made me focus less on what I didn't have anymore.
Yeah. Tell me life about Mark and your family before the accident.
So had a pretty amazing life overall. 3 absolutely beautiful children, all born here in Brisbane. We spent a few years living up in Singapore for a pretty intense job that both my wife and I had up in there for a while. So it was a beautiful life experience for us all. I'd grown up in Western Australia and moved from Western Australia to Hong Kong for a few years before coming to Brisbane. So yeah, pretty, blessed life really from an opportunity perspective, and from beautiful wife and children, and just life was good. It was really busy. We were probably only just really holding it together, and I think a lot of families are like that, aren't they? When you've got a lot of 3 kids and sporting events and school, and at the time of the accident, my oldest was in year 12, second was in year 11, and pretty major disruption to our lives. So.
It was before COVID too, wasn't it, your accident?
Yeah, I always, again, take back to that gratitude. I feel that was really fortunate, and, obviously, whenever I say that fortunate, I sort of half check myself, because of course, it's a perspective thing, whether we're fortunate or not, and people find their way through even tougher times. So when I say, I feel I was really lucky it was before COVID, well, there's people that probably got through what I got through, but did it during COVID, So I think people do find a way to cope regardless, but I do think it was very fortunate it was before COVID because of the ability for people to come and visit me in hospital and provide really, really important support and belief, and just share their stories of how they might have got through something similar, and that helped, or the ability to keep going back and back to the gym, because that was just, again, another one of my coping mechanisms was, how do I just take some action? I don't care. There's no point sitting here and lamenting what I can't do. Yeah. The only way out of this is to drive forward on what I can do. So, I feel very fortunate it was pre-COVID.
Yeah. Your biking accident, that morning you weren't going to go on a ride, but you got up early and you thought, let's do this.
I was a bit on the edge because I'd had a really, really busy work week. I was preparing for this workshop. I was going to be away from home for 2 weeks, delivering the workshop and doing follow-up work. It was in Salt Lake City in America. So I was scheduled to fly, I think 9:30 that night. And because I felt tired, I sort of almost didn't. And I thought, no, it's really going to be, it does really help me sleep on the plane. It's good for me to go. I want to see the boys one last time before I go. And we actually had 2 of our riding group that day who were peeling off early, and we're going to go on a shorter ride. So I, nearly took that way out, and I didn't. I decided, no, it's good for me I was feeling really good. It was a beautiful morning. It wasn't too humid despite being early March in Brisbane, so it was absolutely perfect morning, and I just thought, no, I'll do the full ride. I want to push myself to do that. I'll sleep better on the plane. And then just bike hit a bit of a divot in the road, really, and understeered through a corner, and I had to make some control crash decisions. So again, lots of ifs in that, but it really doesn't matter. And the bottom line is, just really fortunate the way things panned out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, fast forward to now, but you went through hell and back basically through the process, obviously through the accident. What were those thoughts in your head when you were having the accident? Were you aware consciously?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's incredible, I think, how much you retain in those moments. I mean, for me, obviously it depends if you lose consciousness. For me, I didn't. So when you don't, you really remember everything almost in slow-mo. Like I remember, coming down the hill at 40k an hour or whatever it was, and breaking into the corner and thinking, I've actually braked a bit hard. I could just accelerate out of the corner a little bit, and so I've tried to do that just at the time I've hit that lump in the road. Next thing you know, the front wheel just feels really weird in my hands, because I'm no longer getting grip through the tire, so just this really weird feeling coming through my front hands, and I'm thinking, oh no, this is no good. What are my options? I'm trying to scan the curb ahead. And I decided that I didn't have enough room anymore to effectively force the corner, and the bit of the because I'm leaning into the right and leaning into the curve a little bit. My line of view was more to that side, and I'm looking at this curb and thinking that's a really big steep curb. That's no good. So I don't want to. I'm going over the handlebars at that, but I really don't want to be crashing into that uncontrolled. So letting the bike keep going straight and crashing into this park I could see straight ahead was my better option, knowing I'd go over the handlebars at either the curb or the pine bollards I could see. So that was all. It was pretty scary, I guess, making all those decisions. Basically, I will swear, you're basically going, "Oh shit, I've got no options," or worse. And it was really awful. I was in split seconds, not even that. And then that knowing that I'd go over the handlebars and then feeling the impact as the bike went up over the curb, but I didn't go over the handlebars there. But as I slammed into the pine bollards and just being ripped out of your the cleats where your feet are locked into on a road bike, and having your hands ripped off the handlebars, and supermaning my way through the air apparently. So so one of the other riders described it very helpfully, and unfortunately then I found this stormwater drain that was 1.7 meters below ground level, and so just by chance I happened to pile drive my way straight into that, and left hand probably clipped the ground first near the bottom of the drain. I don't think all the way down the drain. I think there was a piece of loose bluestone rock that's maybe a 1.5 feet away from the actual wall that lines the front of the drain, and I probably hit. I believe that thing was bedded into the wall of the drain. I've sort of hit that with my hand first, and then my helmet and shoulder went into it, and that force went straight through my spine. And if you put your hand on your on your tummy, I guess, around your bottom of your rib cage, and if you run that round to the middle of your back, that's the part of my back that basically got crushed by the force, and 2 vertebrae there, were shattered really, or one was crushed a little bit, and the other one was crushed to 40% of its original height, and a big piece went for a little wander into the spinal cord. So I didn't know any of that at that point in time. I just knew that I couldn't really breathe and pain was off the scale. Unfortunately, I'd sort of landed in a safety position. I had 2 physios and a nurse with me. So if you, unlike, as I keep saying, like, unlucky but lucky. If you're an unlucky situation, like that, having a helmet that worked was, lucky because I'd bought it. But that's something that is largely in control. If you cycle out there, wear a new helmet upgraded every 18 months, 2 years or something.
Well, that's a story as well, because you went out and bought that not too long before your accident.
Yeah, exactly. It was basically just half price in the Christmas sale, and I go, yep, my current helmet's sort of making my head itchy a bit, and it just doesn't feel like it breathes that well. I'm not loving this current helmet, and that feels lighter and just felt really nice on, and just went for it really. Just more about discomfort of my current helmet than thinking about safety, and I'm so grateful I made that decision. And actually, I've never shared this story before, but Trek, who made that helmet under their Bontrager brand, they're such a good company that despite it working brilliantly and, saving my life probably, they take it back and they want to inspect it and work out what went right in that accident and what went wrong, so they can improve the technology for the future. And that's why, I guess that's sort of I don't get any Bontrager endorsements. In fact, my wife and daughter in particular, my whole family don't want me to ever ride again. So, that's completely independent. But just I think that's a pretty special thing from a company if they're, even when something is, in my view, worked perfectly in the circumstance, they're still taking it back and saying, how do we learn? How do we make sure we save more people in the future?
That's awesome. So, have you been back on a bike?
Yeah, about 10 months after, probably, our youngest boy wanted to do some biking in preparation for a school camp, so we just got on the bike paths and did some little short rides on the mountain bikes on the bike paths for a while, and that was really nice because riding felt less abnormal than walking still does today.
Right.
So I was down on power and stuff, but just didn't seem to impact my breathing and my core muscles in the same way as talking or sitting or standing or walking does. So it was nice to get back out there. But at the very start, the first few months, all I wanted to do was get back on the bike with the boys, prove I could, come back to that sort of superhuman sort of, false idea, if you like. I really want to get out there, but over time it became, less of a priority. Yeah,
obviously recovering. So when was it that you first really understood after your accident that, this is bad?
Well, varying degrees. Clearly, when I was in the ditch, the pain was just off the scale, and I can't remember if I couldn't move or just didn't want to move because the pain was so bad. So I was nervous, and I was nervous about how, impacted my breathing was, and I was trying really hard to calm that down. So, I guess at that point, I felt it was likely to be, significant injuries of some description internally. But I don't know why, but I never thought it was spine. Maybe it's because either the boys or the paramedics had taken my shoes off at some point and asked me to wiggle my toes, and I could wiggle toes, I think. Apparently it said something about pins and needles on my legs, but I really don't remember that, having said that at the time. And I think I just associated that with having been lying on my side in the ditch for a while, and it was a bit, big shock to my overall system. So it was literally get to hospital, see Lucy, who's rushed to meet me there, go through a whole pile of scans. It just felt like it was a blur of scans for a while, and then about 3 hours after the accident, or 4 hours after the accident, about 3 hours after I presented in hospital, is when they started going through the results of my scans, and I guess that's the point in time I really knew it was serious. And I was completely shattered, lost for quite a while in terms of digesting that information and working my way through it, and can I actually tackle this? Am I packing up and going home, or am I going to find a way to pick myself up and move forward?
Yeah, well, speaking of that, obviously physically you were trashed, literally, but mentally you weren't, because of where you are now.
It's on the edge, right? So I don't think anyone could, I have heard some people speak and seem to cope even better than I did out of situations like this, but it was really up and down, and particularly the periods of time in hospital. But at the very start, the first day, I really can't remember thinking much at all for a few hours after that news. I know I probably did doze in and out because obviously I was starting to get pretty intense pain relief. I was probably pretty exhausted from the way my body had to, I guess, effectively shut down and protect the areas of the body that were hurt. But for periods there, I just think I was really lost mentally, and I just, I guess, managed to pick my way out of that by imagining people that had been through tougher things and come out the other side, and what sort of attitudes might they have employed. Obviously I thought about Lucy and her own journey and some other friends that have been through pretty intense journeys, and if they can keep finding hope and just turn up as thoroughly as they did through all of that, then I should be able to at least emulate that to a degree. So suck it up and have a crack, I think, was pretty much where my mind got to. And then you sort of form that mindset, and then, as sort of talk about in the book, then that night I wasn't really perturbed by having to go through a 5-hour operation, but then you wake up post that and realize just how immobile it was and how you'd sort of generated this resolve yesterday, and it seems completely distant and worthless because, of course, that first day when you're trying to find hope and resolve to what you understand to be a really difficult position, you still don't quite understand how bad it is, until you get out of that operation and have to try and move. And I realised I literally couldn't push myself, an inch up the bed from a movement perspective, and I was just so sore, and there were so many shockwaves of pain, and it was just all really tough. So definitely, I'm proud of my mindset overall, I think, in dealing with it, but it was I won't say it was perfect. It was very up and down. I had to keep managing it. And then at times when I probably was on the border of not managing it, had what I call gentle interventions and help from others that probably helped me just, find a spark of hope when I needed it, find a spark of my own identity when I needed it, because I think that can be really powerful at rekindling your hope as well. And I call them sort of embers, the embers of yourself, the embers of, your identity and what you stand for and your values, and how do you, I guess, blow on them or have someone blow on them and just get them rekindled and sparked up, and use that as a way, to help you light your way forward as well. So, I definitely got help.
Well, I did want to talk to you a little bit more about embers. The way that you describe them, you can really visualize the embers in a fire. That's what I thought. That's G, G for genius, how you came to... tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, when I first started thinking about speaking about my journey, and I guess there was this balance of speaking and writing, and so I was brainstorming, I guess, what I felt had helped me, and so I really felt the illumination of hope. The illumination of hope was so important to me, and so that was sort of one of the areas I was focusing on as being an area I was going to drill at. And within that, I'd sort of had this idea of the hope that's on the hill in the sky, so far away, so distance that you're aspiring to, and that being really important and really helping me. But I felt like there was more than that. There was this element of, I guess, curiosity and being able to challenge and explore things, because that finds new possibility and new ways to hope. But also that idea of, there was more again, there was something from effectively the pathway of life, from within you, this sense of who you are, the identity, I guess all your great memories, the connections you have, and how you're in a much more positive way of driving yourself forward if you can both see the light on the hill and that light, that sense of light from inside yourself, and almost coming up out of the ground and leading you the way forward. Not necessarily the perfect way to that same aspiring light on the hill, but enough just for the next few steps, the next few steps, the next few steps. And if you can find that light both from the sky and from this sort of, I guess, from the ground, from the innateness inside you, then you're more capable of persevering. And I guess I felt like I'd been in a position where I needed pretty hard to persevere. It was, fundamental, and it was hard, and somehow I found it. So I guess I was trying to, attribute what had helped me and sort of came up with that concept. And over time, thanks to Birds of Tokyo, illumination morphed into lanterns, which I think is a better metaphor for it. But it's that overall idea of illumination from within, and I guess somehow embers, as that sort of, when the spark of you is almost out because of the news you've received, but you find a way to bring it back to life. Embers just seemed like the perfect way to represent that.
There were, when you were talking about embers, I had tears going down my face because, I've got absolutely no doubt that A Fraction Stronger is going to help anyone who's been through a major upheaval, a catastrophe, if you like, by giving hope and grit to finding their path to keep going. But it's even more than that. It shows like the stamina and strength that everyone can have, even people that haven't been through that, that they can have in their lives to reach better destinations, better goals, to be a better person, a better vision of themselves. So what was your actual intention writing the book? Because I think, broadly speaking, it's going to help everybody, not just somebody who's been through something like you. But I learned so much from hearing it. Thank you.
I can give such long answers to this question, really. It's definitely helped people in hardship, and I really treasure that, that it's having that impact, and it's helping people that just want to change. And I think at a very high level, that was central to what I hoped for in the book. And it's only ever hope when you're writing a book, it may come to nothing much at all. But I definitely wanted people to both realize that they were probably a fraction stronger already in their life from what they'd gone through, what they'd experienced, what they knew, because often we are very good at applauding, these big ticket items like courage and resilience and grit in others. I sometimes say we put it up on a pedestal. We sort of extend what it is in our own eyes and then belittle our own achievements towards those things as an internal process as well. So definitely sort of wanted people to appreciate that they were stronger than they realised because of what they've been through before. And I want people to, as they read the book, that sounds awfully strong. I hope that as people read the book, that they get a bit of that reflection, that self-reflection of all the great things they've been through. And of course, as I did, being able to understand other people have been through tough journeys and borrow a little bit of their belief and their inspiration can also make you a fraction stronger if you need to in the future. So there's definitely that hope that it both helps you currently and also might just be something you remember in the future and go, that's going to help me, and I'll tackle it using a bit of that, at least some of those thought processes. So it's definitely all of those things. Then just extending on quickly, because I did promise to be a long answer, sorry listeners, you've got, I guess,
we're loving it, don't be sorry.
very start, you start the process, and I guess I'd sort of, who would read it, is it really that much of a story? And so probably started thinking a very cheap and cheerful book that maybe I'd drop to PA Hospital and Royal Brisbane Hospital in particular, that was so influential to me, and maybe they'll get into a few hands that need it and it'll just change a few lives positively, and that's that would be amazing, and at least I feel like I'm paying back for all the help I got. So that was probably the very start of it, and then my overall personality took over, and next thing you know, I'm working with a book coach to get some structure, and then I was fortunate enough that draft was good enough to get picked up by a lovely publisher down in Melbourne called Major Street, and they bluntly said, look, there's something in your story, but the book's not quite good enough yet. Bits of it are good enough, but you're going to need to put as much work in again. If you want us to work with you, and we think it's worthwhile us working together, are you interested? And to me, that was just really positive feedback. It's like anything, like it basically says you're making progress. There's it makes sense to persevere. So
after what you'd just been through, you knew how to persevere.
Yeah, correct. And I'd probably, I'd just done my first few keynote speeches, and even though I was pretty raw at doing those in May 2021, at least it gave me some idea that the story might help people. I'd had someone drive up from the Gold Coast with their son for one of those speeches, and then reach out to me to be on a talkback online program and stuff. So it felt like it had some more merit than perhaps I realised. So, I guess both that and just that whole incoming premise of I was helped, how do I help other people, encouraged me to, invest and persevere some more. And that led to me working with Brooke Lyons, my editor, who, really helped me be vulnerable and, show more of the journey more deeply through the book, which I think ultimately will mean it does actually help more people, as uncomfortable as that was for me. And I one of the questions I really love and I get quite consistently is, well, how do you encourage other, particular, I guess, older males to open up about their feelings, given you were able to do it in the book? And I don't really know the answer. All I know is that for me, it was a trade-off. I just basically go, well, it's uncomfortable, but I feel like it's more likely to reach its purpose and help people if I do it. So I persuaded myself effectively to keep opening up and making sure it was people could really connect with the story and feel the journey with me. And the bits of the book that are about me, and obviously I didn't want all of the book to be about me, and it isn't, but the bits that are about me are I think people will often feel like they're in the bed with me, they're on the bike with me, they're
100%
trying to walk with me, and we really tried to take them there so they could feel it.
Yeah, I definitely got that sense, particularly, I can't remember which chapter it was now, but when you were in the bed, probably after your operation, and you were trying to inch yourself up the bed, that's what reminded me of that question, basically, the lack of physical strength that you had and the mental power that you had to just get yourself up fraction by fraction. Is that how the title of the book came from, that bed scene?
Yeah, so as I wrote the book, its working title was always it's not about the fall. The idea being that it's not about how we fall over, it's how we choose to get up. And as a cyclist, it was a bit of a spin on Lance Armstrong's book, It's Not About the Bike. So that was where I started mentally, and my book coach didn't like that title, and so she sort of encouraged me to rethink on titles, and actually I really just sort of came back to, how do I want people to feel? I want them to feel stronger. Yeah. So titles that sort of centered around stronger became sort of my focus area, and I guess we just sort of really challenged that and said, well, if you really want them to appreciate their strength, all we need them to do is appreciate that fraction that they need to get through the moment. I guess that's pretty similar to the way I paint courage in the book as well. Again, courage doesn't need to be on a pedestal. It needs to be whatever we need it to be to get us through the moment we're in, to get to the better moments ahead. And strength is the same. So just a fraction might be enough, to get you to the next bit, or to, find a fraction of strength, to believe you've got a fraction more strength than you have. And certainly come back to lying in the bed, not being able to move an inch. And, there was times where I could have just mentally quit, and you just go, and maybe I did for, minutes at different stages, no doubt. But, eventually you go, well, it's pretty horrid being where I am. It's only fractionally more horrid to push myself to move that little bit. But if I push myself to move that little bit, I'm progressing, or I'm avoiding a setback. And if I can do those things, then maybe tomorrow will be a better day. Maybe tomorrow I'll be able to drive myself forward a little bit more. And just that whole idea of, which was very consistent, Claire's story, other stories that I knew of, that I learnt more of after I started writing the book, that willpower just to find a way to persevere in today's moment, defer your desire to quit to the future in some way. If you really feel like you're going to quit, we'll find a way to defer that tomorrow, because circumstances might change a little bit by whatever you achieve today. And if you can just keep kicking that can down the road and keep progressing, next thing you know, you're in a slightly better position.
Yeah, well, you've certainly come such a long way. So obviously your mental power has been outstanding all the way through. And some of the other stories that you share in the book, obviously they had been, I say it very loosely when I say that they may have gone through harder situations than what you thought that you went through.
Oh, no doubt.
But yeah, they very inspirational. Just obviously your main inspirations to make you feel stronger, like they can do it, I can do this.
And different, and I had to tap into those feelings at different depths at different stages. So at times it was just a knowledge there in your back of your head that, other people have gone through tougher, and other times when you're closer to quitting, it was really challenging yourself and going, well, they found a way.
Yeah.
What might they have done? How might they have found what might they have done in this situation? Or what do I know of how they got through it? Or how do I just know they got through it to mean that they must have got through situations like this? Because if they're in a tougher position than me and they got through it, they must have found a way to get to even tougher moments than this. And if they can do it, then surely I can find a way.
You mentioned in your book angels a lot, and obviously you had some incredible moments when people would rock up right at the right moment for you. In particular, I think it was one of your children's teachers' wives who came in, and you were not in the mood for any company.
I don't think I was in the mood for any company most of the first week. You just feel so shattered and defeated and, broken, sorry for myself a lot, penalising myself for, accident I couldn't control. That wasn't a fault. I wasn't really doing anything wrong. I just got, unlucky the way the bike hit the wall, the spot in the road. So yeah, all of those things, sort of feeling like, just leave me alone, world, at this point, and I'll find a way to battle this out in isolation. And yeah, I guess perhaps just pause for a minute and think about those times when, maybe you've been more mentally fragile yourself and how you do want to go into isolation, but how it actually generally isn't the right strategy. And I was so lucky that people came in at the right moment. And the D situation was just, you just sort of, I don't even know if I woke up, which was, quite regular at that point in time. You're just dozing off, regularly in the first day or two. And she pops in and she's got flowers and chocolates. And I'm thinking, I don't recognise you. And I presume she was in hospital scrubs. I really can't remember, but I presume she was. Maybe she wasn't. Plastic surgeon. And her husband was my eldest boy's year 5 school teacher. Just in a freak of timing, he'd been cycling the same route the day before, had stopped because he recognised some of the other parents from school, checked out the situation. By the end of the day, knowing it was serious, or whether it was the end of the day or as soon as he's got back from the ride, he started contacting the senior staff of the school and saying, look out for the Berridge children, the Berridge boys the next couple of days at school, because this does look serious. Obviously, he told the story to his wife, and she's a plastic surgeon. Obviously, was working at the hospital I was at, so she's decided I guess she probably initially just decided she was going to come find me in the hospital and provide moral support. And as fate would have it, I had a couple of wounds she actually needed to tend. So she was once I guess she saw that on file, that I was going to need stitches on a couple of fingers, and they were stitches that needed an incredible amount of skill and precision, that she was going to be the one that did them. So overall, an amazingly emotional moment, and emotional now. You may be able to hear Simone can see it. She's nodding at me with support like an angel would. But just all of that stuff where just come in and it makes, again, come back to building embers. It's the stuff that goes, life is worth living. Like, I might be feeling like I don't want to see anyone and I want to quit this life at this point in time. I don't think I really had those thoughts of quitting life, if you like, but just quitting, driving myself forward, quitting, giving it my best shot, which had been my resolve on the first day before I realised quite how hard giving it my best shot was going to be. This is hard, right? This realization of how hard it was, and just people like that reminding you of how good the world we live in is and how good people are, and giving you memories to rekindle and persevere, cause you to persevere and find that grit when you need that next. Because, of course, every one of these kind moments when someone comes in and does something really kind, it's amazing in the moment, but it also reminds you tomorrow when you need to find a way to persevere tomorrow, because, hang on, this amazing person has been so kind and come in and done this, and that might happen. I don't know whether you sort of necessarily fully mentally connect it to this might happen again, but I think in some intuitive way you do. You don't want to sort of count your chickens, sort of, it does. So I don't think you take it all the way through to it might happen again, but you sort of realise that it happens, and you're more in tune with it happening, and all those powerful things. So they're all, to me, they're all part of that overall angel idea. And to me, angels, a lot of external help, but it's also that, well, there are some things you can control. You can control your own effort. There are some angels you can sort of tap into yourself, even if those other angels aren't coming.
Incredible stories, and that's not the only one with the surgeon. There's other people that you had no clue about, really, that rock up into your life, and they're there giving you support and helping you move a fraction more to your goal. I had moments listening to you narrate, completely disassociating you with the person that had to deal with everything that you went through. So, yeah, because I guess for me it's hard to fathom that you came from somebody completely broken to now being here narrating your book. Was it your mental power? Was it the angels? Was it the embers? What can you pinpoint what that was?
Yeah, well, just, when you're recording an audio book, there's no 100-metre sprint involved, because if we had to run 100 metres up the road, then Simone would probably beat me by 50 metres. So she's not setting world records there, and she's still going to beat me by a long way. So, look, getting off the ground's hard. Walking's hard. Moving fast. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm having an accidental meeting with a bus, right? I'm not going to be getting out of the way real quick. So, how I look to the average person's not quite how it's going on inside from an effort perspective, but that's I guess that physical side's very separate to the overall mindset journey of the book. And I do very much feel like the metaphors, the pillars I have in the book of, those lanterns, so finding your hope, whether it be inside you, like your embers, or externals, the angels, again, whether that's internal and the effort and the things you can control, or the external shepherds that find a way to intervene or to help or just be generous and kind. And managing the demons, so not letting those bad moments completely overwhelm me, and finding strategies, which in my case was generally just taking action. That was probably pretty much my main go-to. There's a few others, but all of those things collectively definitely both help drive me forward in terms of a physical recovery, but also help me deal with what is the longer probably process of the mental recovery. And I guess the book finishes with a couple of chapters that are, one's Finding Worth, which we put in the demons chapter, because for me that comeback, where I thought I would find salvation, for want of a better word, out of physical recovery and reconnect with all of my prior life better. I just found that, I guess, hard, and then the day, I was falling short of it despite all my best efforts. So then we, I guess we had to find other ways to keep grinding myself forward from finding more meaning in life, not meaning life, but finding my next evolution that was going to come out of being not the same physical person as before, because I'm not the same physical person before. I can't be the overall package that I was before, and therefore how all these new bits of me come together to be something valuable, and come back to that idea of embers and other things. It's worth being valuable. We are all valuable, right?
Exactly.
And that's what life's about, is those finding opportunities, getting things done, creating meaning, having your friendships, your connections, your memories, doing something tough, getting through it, forges the best relationships and the best sense of self. So all of those things are worth persevering for. So I ended up with these couple of chapters, Finding Worth, and then now Fraction Stronger, which is really trying to say that it's an ongoing challenge to, keep finding my meaning and who I am. And the book's obviously a central part of that at the moment. And, so that has its pluses and minuses as well, of course, because you end up almost hinging more of your personal value to how the book's sales are going. Not that was ever written for that purpose, but you sort of start to appreciate just how great the book can be in the right hands from a meeting its purpose perspective, and people that are whether they are in hardship or just wanting to make hard change, and you sort of go, yeah, if I could just keep grinding away at book promotion in the same way as I did at rehab, then maybe I'll crack through on that one too. And just to wrap this up, perhaps that's exactly the essence of life, is that it is like that. We grind away at things, and sometimes it comes off in the way we expected it to, when we expected it to, but not that often. Most of the time it comes off in different ways, in different time frames, and we never quite know. So we just keep investing, and eventually, we get the reward that we in ways we didn't expect, and that's even more wonderful. And B, we can look back and go, look at these, fractions of things that were happening, and I didn't realize these fractions of things were happening until they sort of came to be this new thing that I didn't even know was going to happen. Yeah. So who knows where things lead.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. Maybe, your destiny or your purpose on the planet here was to actually have that accident so you could write this book.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to replicate that so I can write a second book. We'll have to come up with a different way to crack through for that. And I guess so then you get this beautiful situation. Like I used to write poetry a lot as a teenager, early adult, and that really got put to the side for a long time. And I always had that sort of creative element I was never really fully utilising. So now I can, I guess, reconnect with that stuff. So I can both be this new, author that's, I like to joke, an accidental author, or catapulted back into contact with my creative side. I can get those jokes, which actually still connect with my embers, because part of my embers being playful and that sense of fun and having horrible dad jokes that my children hate. So I've managed to be both a new person and connect with my old person by coming up with humour like accidental author. So
yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, you cracked me up when you said, in regards to my other question, you look like you're doing okay now from where you came. And Mark says to me, well, do you want to watch me get off the floor? I said, don't get down there to get back up.
Yeah. It's not that bad. It just, I've got certain ways I have to get off the floor, and it'll probably take me 10 or 15 seconds to recover. Lucy and I don't entertain as much as we did pre-injury because it's just harder, and but we did on Saturday night, and just carrying one bottle of wine up the stairs, and just even that, you just realise how much physically I'm impacted. Like, it doesn't take very much of a load to really remind myself that just how, I guess, impacted my overall leg strength is. But at the same time, you just, like I do with so many other situations, the mantra kicks in of, well, you may not enjoy, how your breathing and your strength is impacted, but at least you're walking with the hope of improvement. And, whilst it's more uncomfortable than normal, well, that means that I'm probably getting some leg strength and some, maybe a fraction of improvement out of walking up the stairs with that. One bottle of wine of load is actually driving me forward. Whilst I don't like the moment, the process of doing it is probably actually moving me in the right way. So, I guess that's just life, isn't it? So I just, I am where I am, and I just keep finding, all those life opportunities to keep trying to secure a bit more of improvement, because, I don't think I'll ever fully disconnect my physical capability to my sense of identity, even if my sense of identity is shifting in new ways.
It's growing probably substantially more than the normal person that doesn't have to go through something like that. But you've got a really good grip on yourself, though. To me, you seem very grounded, and obviously your humour. You've obviously got a lot of support from your family who cherish and love you, that have helped you get stronger.
No doubt, and family, network, community, the privilege of the community we're in, and even just like little things, and lots of people would be in the same situation of trying to navigate which hospital next, and just the amount of I guess good quality advice we were able to tap into, either directly from our friendship circle or them reaching out to other physios or other specialists that might be able to guide where next to from a hospital perspective. And because one of the advantages of hope is you might underestimate how hard something is in the future, and you sort of need that in a way because it helps you believe that you can get there. Therefore, having people that might help you make sure that there isn't a long-term consequence out of you being, too hopeful, and therefore not getting the help you need, whether that be the physiotherapy help in my case or some other help. If you don't have people just sort of steering and guiding and allowing you to have some hope of I might recover quicker than I expected, but also guarding against the alternative by giving you the good advice of where else to go and how to prepare, then I guess that's the best of both worlds in a lot of ways of, how do you have that balance? And I think our community and friends and family were really good at helping me with that balance. Lots of good examples.
So your journey with A Fraction Stronger now, you're doing public speaking. You have done a few spots and helping people directly, I guess, by speaking to them live. Where do you see yourself, say, with the book in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I ever went through a process of going, I'm going to be a TED talker or something. And you look at some of those and they're just so awesome. And I guess maybe the book in total, maybe speaking's very similar. I like to run the parallel to cooking. Like I used to love cooking, and I think I was a pretty talented cook. I did some amazing meals, and people would go, "Wow, that was amazing food. So glad we did that." And I'd put a lot of effort into it, like what I'd call 3-phase cooking. So, because the Echo restaurant here in Brisbane, Philip Johnson, he had a lot of stuff which was 3-phase, where you do one level of preparation, and then it's got to go through another level of preparation, then another level of preparation before you get this amazing meal a day later. So I do a lot of that sort of stuff. Anyway, and people will say, "Oh, you're so good," and they're going, "You should be a master chef." And I'm going, "Have you got any idea actually how good people on master chef are?" So maybe in terms of my speaking versus, I guess, the very high level people, maybe there's a big gap in reality. But like anything, the best way to deal with that gap, to narrow it, is just to keep practicing, get out there and connect with people. And ultimately, that's why I do it, so that I can share my story with the hope that it makes a positive impact on someone else's life, in the same way that, when Carney Little spoke at an event that I went to in 2010, I was able to remember that. I couldn't remember her name, but I could remember enough of her story, and certainly a photo that came to mind when I needed it, of her as a toddler, and thinking, well, if you can go on from that to be a Paralympic athlete, multiple medals, and do so much else to inspire people, then I wasn't aspiring to be that at the moment. I was trying to find hope, but I was just going, if you can do that sort of stuff, then I can find a way to get through this moment, to get to better moments tomorrow, and just keep grinding myself forward. So if my book or my speaking has a fraction of that impact, that's still an amazing thing.
Well, A Fraction Stronger, it's relatable to all walks of life, because ultimately, though, I guess that's what life's journey is. It is just fraction by fraction, isn't it, to get to where your destination is on a path. And I guess you're living proof that if that path changes, you go fraction by fraction to wherever that path then takes you.
I think that's such a good way of looking at it, because if it's just these little fractions that are compounding on each other to build something special, well, they don't need to be a perfectly straight line. They can, and life does duck and weave a bit, and
yes,
twists and turns we don't expect on us, and so they're little fractions. It's maybe it's like a crystal. Crystal would be pretty boring if it was just all a straight line, right? If it's sitting on, sitting lots of little different structures and all of that stuff that makes up the fabric of us, and the fabric of our life has, I sometimes when I talk, use the line that it's within those twists and turns that we find our sort of, our sense of meaning, our purpose, and, who we are. And I think, that all those little fractions are what make us up, what make up the beauty of our life, our uniqueness. We are all unique. Sometimes lots of social media and other things try and take that uniqueness away from us, but actually all those little, adventures and misadventures that we've had are part of who we are, and all of those little fractions, are able to be tapped into when we need it to drive ourselves forward, and who knows where the next fractions, which directions they'll take us.
So amazing, so profound. Yeah, thank you, Mark, for coming in and recording your audiobook with me. I highly recommend it. If you want to be a fraction stronger, this is the book to read. Where can people contact you? Where can people find your book? Your audiobook hopefully will be out within the next 6 weeks.
Let's just start there. I'm super excited I've done the audiobook. It does feel, when you I guess go through a book process, there's just putting a lot of energy in a lot of different ways, and I nearly didn't do the audiobook, but it just felt the right thing to do from a purpose, and I couldn't have been happier with the process of recording it here with Simone. It was amazing. So super excited when that gets out there and I can share that with the world. I have to say, listening to me for 8 hours may not be your thing. I get that. If it isn't, then find A Fraction Stronger in the bookstore. It's probably in most bookstores, Dymocks, and in around Brisbane, but around Australia, Booktopia, Amazon, or on my website, markberridge.com. markberridge.com.au, and you can contact me there for our speaking gigs or just other ways to catch up, or I might be able to put you in contact with someone, form a connection that might help you in your moment of need, which ultimately is the journey I'm on now, because so many people did that for me.
Wonderful. Yeah, you're an amazing man. Did you mention that you're actually doing a walk soon for prostate cancer?
I'm walking at the moment for prostate cancer. I guess that sort of stemmed from last year. Well, a few different things. The CEO of Prostate Cancer Foundation Australia was the CEO of Bike Queensland at that point in time. I fell off my bike and she was just amazing at that point in time. So, what comes around goes around. I guess I wanted to support that foundation the last couple of years. I did it last year to raise some money and get myself moving, because at that point in time I sort of probably was needed to get out and walk for various reasons. I had an aspirational goal around walking that I needed to break inertia on, and sometimes you need an
excuse.
I'd say, it always comes, to me, I believe it always comes internally, but you sort of get yourself over that internal threshold of motivation, sometimes using an external trigger. And so for me, the last 2 Septembers has been walking 72 kilometres for fundraising for Prostate Cancer Foundation Australia. This year I'm doing it, my cousin's doing it with me, and he is absolutely smashing me from a kilometres perspective. So go cuz Johnny, great work. I will not catch him remotely from a kilometres perspective to get to my 72, but that's my intention for the month, and just raise a bit of money while I'm doing it. But more than anything, raise awareness. Even getting dropped a note by an old friend who obviously is going through a pretty tough prostate cancer battle at the moment, and which I wouldn't have realised but for putting it out that I'm doing it again, and so in some ways that provides a deeper connection for us, but also might provide a bit of help for him at a moment, but also provides more impetus for me for being open about everything that happened to me in terms of my journey, because you never know who's going to help and when.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so A Fraction Stronger, out at all good bookstores. The audio book's on its way, hopefully up soon. And Mark Berridge, thank you so much for being a part of my podcast today.
Total pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Simone Feiler Podcast.
What's your story?
Contact Simone for a chat at brisbaneaudiobookproduction.com.